Hello and welcome to the program Out in Front. Today we have Dr. Fobi, whom we had last time. This time we're going to see a different face of Dr. Fobi, that of an activist, that of a humanitarian, and of course a philosopher. Mathias Fobi is a well-recognized name in Cameroon politics. He helped establish a multi-party system in Cameroon and supported the change for democracy. A contingent player in Cameroonian political realm, I should say, but he keeps affirming that he is not a politician, adding that politics stinks. We want to get more about his vision for Cameroon, more about what he thinks about politics, and some of the contributions, the positive contributions that we might draw from his wise sayings. Dr. Fobi, you are an accomplished surgeon in America. You had it all, a wonderful wife, a steady job. All was going well for you. But in 1990, you decided to join a social movement in Cameroon. You call it a social movement. We call it an opposition group in Cameroon. You want to tell us a little bit what motivated you then and what were your expectations?
Yes. When I was accomplished here, I traveled extensively and I was well received. But when I went back to Cameroon, just going through the airport, the disrespect I got was very annoying, and there wasn't much I could do about it. Particularly when I arrived at the airport and I wasn't treated preferential like a Cameroonian, and expatriates got better treatment than I did. And it became so bad that even when I went to the bank to get my own money, sometimes my sister would have to bribe people in the bank for me to withdraw money from the bank because there was a limitation of how much money to get. So I was very disenchanted with the system and frustrated, but I did not know what I could do to change it. So when I went back to Cameroon in 1990, I got to Cameroon 5 days after the Social Democratic Front launched in Bamenda. I was not aware they were going to launch. I had not heard about them. And I got a chance to meet with a few of my colleagues, Mr. Senza, who is an attorney who taught when I was in Sacred Heart, and he told me everything about the party. Then I got introduced to the chairman, Nijon Fundi, who was heading the movement, and Justice Wakai. I said, you guys are doing something I wanted to do. I couldn't, but you have my support. And I supported them as much as possible. And I came back to the United States and mobilized other Cameroonians to support the movement. And the main idea was to help bring about change in Cameroon, to improve the health status, to improve the healthways, the driveways, just to bring common sense. Because the people in power at that time were so involved in what was corrupt, and they were so self-centered, and so it gave me a chance to give back, and that's how I got involved in the political or social movement in Cameroon.
When you joined the SDF, you said you supported a movement. You supported the SDF as a movement. When you talk about support, what kind of support did you give them?
Oh, we did. They'll give them quite a bit of money. I'm not. Well, most of the funds that came from the United States, 90% of the funds that came from the United States came from me personally at that time.
In 1991, before the parliamentary elections, a last-minute decision made the SDF withdrew from the from the elections, and you say that that was the one opportunity they had to make change.
Absolutely. I think you might want to talk to Nijon and Mr. Mona about that, but I was in Cameroon just before that election, and it was obvious the SDF would have won that parliamentary election landslide. And I left Douala for Paris, heading back to the United States. And when I got to Paris, when I called back, I just found out that the SDF was not going to participate in the parliamentary elections. And obviously the SDF got influence through what I call expatriate infiltrates in the party, to withdraw from the election. And that was the end of it. And that is why we lost, and that's why we are here today. Because if the SDF had gone into that parliamentary election, we would have won, and Mr. Mbia would have given up.
You were the backbone of the SDF in terms of finances, ideas as well. After this decision was taken without informing you, what changed for you and the party then, and what has changed now?
No, really, I didn't. When you support a movement, you're not there to determine what they do. You're supporting what they did. When I heard what they had decided, I respected the people on the ground for what they did. Even after that, you see, when you're fighting for a movement, you understand that people make mistakes in decision making. But what changed me, or what stopped me, was the people became so stupid. They forgot fighting for the change, and they started fighting for the position. See, when Nee John started fighting for the presidency, that was different from what I thought he should have been fighting for. See, if you want the ring road built, keep pushing for the ring road to be built. If you want healthcare to be instituted in Bamenda, keep fighting for it. But when you want to become president, then all you've done is you have focused your fight into one basket which can be destroyed. And the government did a very good job to neutralize the opposition party when they started just wanting to be president. Then it became a question of who is better, Nee John or Mr. Mbia? And now 20 years later, he is still chairman and Mr. Mbia is still president. So who is the kettle, who is the pot? But if the SDF has stayed with what I was supporting, which was bringing about the change, then the personalities will be out of it. And Mr. Mbia would have probably adapted most of it because his powers would not have been threatened. And even today that I talk to you, Nene, I will say this, I still recommend it. The opposition still needs to stand up and not run for the presidency, but ask for those change. That's why during the last election, I was supporting somebody like Kawala, not because I thought she was going to be president, because she was advocating certain changes that needed to be made. But unfortunately, the opposition party is not fighting for those changes. They are fighting to be president, to be duo, to be this. And what happens is the Cameroonian has become smart. Or you want to be duo or president so you can get your own share of the money. That is why any Dick Tom or Harry now wants to be a member of the SDM, CPDM. That way he can get his share of the money. So the politics now is not to bring about change in the country, is who gets a piece of the pie.
You have endorsed two candidates. The first one was Nee John Frundi, who you say has been there now for 20 years and more. And
26 years.
26 years to be precise. Another person that you endorsed was Kawala. And at the end of the day, the two of them didn't make it through. One didn't meet up to expectations, or maybe both of them. At one point in time, I asked myself, you've got the vision, you've got the money, you've got the experience. Don't you think at one point in time you want to take matters into your own hands? Do you think of one day running for presidency?
No. Politics is a very corrupt thing. And there are some people who call out to do that. When you're a surgeon, you're more pragmatic. I'm not going to be good at making decisions. I'm not good at making promises that I can't keep. I cannot keep trying to be everything to everybody. That's what a politician is. So you have to choose your battles and know what you can win. I was asked that question way back in 1997 when they were even asking me to come back and be the chairman of the party so Nee John could be the candidate. So there should be a difference between the chairman and the candidate. And even up to the 2000 when Asamoah became secretary, when I was trying to unify the SDA because it became fragmented between the old and the new, people wanted me to come back and play a role. I said, no, if I come there, I'll be too pragmatic and, I won't get along with many people. So, no, I cannot. I supported Kawala for two reasons. One was a protest vote against Nee John. And the other one was, number two, to point out another aspect of my life, which I've come to learn, that women have a say-so in what is done in Cameroon, and women are as intelligent as men, and they can be supported for positions. And what Kawala was saying and some of the things she was doing, I was happy with what she was doing, even though I knew her chances were very slim. I have 4 daughters, and I don't consider any of them less capable than any other man. And there are unfortunately many Cameroonians today who don't respect a woman taking a position of power. And sometimes you cannot tell them you have to respect women, you just put them in a position for them to see that the woman is performing, the woman is doing just as good, and then they'll accept it with time.
If you had the opportunity to speak to the President of the Republic, Paul Biya,
Yes.
what would you tell him?
Or I would tell him, Mr. Mbia, be the president for the next 5 years, but at the same time set up a system so when you leave, there's democracy in Cameroon. And then show us a hierarchy as what will happen if you are not there tomorrow, who's going to take over. If I was to talk to Mr. Mbia, that's what I would tell him. Because if Mbia steps away now, we have a vacuum. So to me, as somebody who's seen things, I look like, you saw the Queen of England the other day on her birthday. The Queen of England is there, the son, the successor is there, William, the next successor is there, and the baby is there. That is understood. So when anything happens to the Queen tomorrow, things just move on. We can do that in Cameroon. If I was to talk to Mr. Mbia today, provide for a change in Cameroon peacefully. That is what I'll say.
Okay.
And cut down the bribery, look at the health problems, look at the educational problems, and the road infrastructure and the agricultural problems. That will solve the problems of Cameroon in the future.
Perfect. Now let's talk about Dr. Fobi, the humanitarian, and the philosopher, because you got life lessons. Your love for Cameroon can never be overemphasized. I believe that you've made a lot of investments and supported several humanitarian initiatives in Cameroon. A lot is said about your generosity and philanthropic gestures. You say that people say that you've been very generous even to people who are not your family members. Talk less of those who are your family members. You've brought over 100 of your family members here. You have opened charities. You've given money to a lot of charity groups. Tell me, what makes you this giving? Because I even hear that some people call you stupid because of this giving nature.
Yeah. I have always gotten more when I gave, that's what I can tell you. Every time I've given, I've gotten more. I mean, not in terms of quid pro quo, but I see things that happen every day. I mean, I can't narrate. Yeah. I was at the Nyambi Foundation event in Washington last year, and a young lady, Miss Pekin, I think that's her name, stood up and says, Dr. Fobi, I have been able to educate 1, 2, 3 doctors in my life. I've been able to do this because of you. There's nothing more gratifying. And I didn't even recognize the lady in the hall. I went and hugged her afterwards. And I mean, every day these things occur. It gives you what has your life been worth. We are all going to go. Luckily, I've seen 70 years. I know I'm going to go. If I've made somebody's life better, I'm happy about it. But the thing I'll share with you is, it came from my family. My father was a barefoot man that settled in the land of Quen. And he occupied most of the land between mile 3 or mile 4 and Mendankwe. So when everybody came from Womb, Bamlikit, he was the one that was giving. I saw him give. And one thing that I saw that happen was that when he gave people places to farm, when the harvest season came, the Womb women, the Bansa women, the Bamlike women brought all this extra, each one brought a basket of corn or a basket of corn. So whatever he gave them, we were getting more in return. So, and I saw that happen to my family. My brother had a poultry business. He used to give away poultry freely, and boy, the more he gave, the more he got. So when I came here, the only thing I thought about, the first time I got my first check for $97, I went to the postal service to send a postal mandate back to Cameroon. And my brother comes and says, I've paid so-and-so scholarship in Bishop Rogan, I've paid so-and-so scholarship here. And I found out that at that time, scholarships was 30,000 francs for the year. Mm-hmm. So I found out that in 1 month, I could pay each child's scholarship for the university. Yeah. And then the kids would write and be appreciative. So it was very rewarding to me.
You are in Tomb 4, but they say that a prophet is never recognized in his hometown. You said you are respected everywhere you go. You are recognized, you are acknowledged. You have led so many international medical missions. People literally worship you in the United States of America. But when you get back to Cameroon, you kind of feel dehumanized. You kind of feel ridiculed and embarrassed most of the time. Here in America, there are even some of your tribesmen who are not respectful of your person. How does that make you feel?
I think they're ignorant. I'm sorry, I always answer that question. Ignorance is the master of prejudice. You know what I'm saying? I've been in America now. This is my 50th year in America. And when I realized the racial situations and what happened, I realized that people were prejudiced because they were ignorant. And they make judgments based on the same thing with Cameroon. And many times when people are ignorant, they are afraid, they are worried, they are threatened. You see, people who don't respect me, sometimes they are frightened by my presence because it's like they are like in charge of the situation where they are. And suddenly this superstar shows up and they know your presence is going to dominate the air. And so they try to do everything to deflate you. Well, my position, I never aspired for any position. I never aspired for notoriety. So you can't take it away from me. You know what I'm saying? If I went and got something, then I'll be worried that you come and take it. But when something is bestowed on me, I have it.
You are a family man,
Yeah.
with 3 successful daughters, granddaughters, a wonderful, kind-hearted wife. But before you got here, I don't think it has been easy. You have been out there for a very long time, long nights doing research, long nights doing surgeries, always being out of home, being away from your family. With all what you achieved, you had the money, it could give you a house. By the way, we're in a very beautiful mansion. But how did you manage to have a home?
Well, I'm lucky I had a good wife. A home is the wife's palace. Unlike Cameroon, where the house is owned by the man, in the United States, the house is owned by the woman. I was just the breadwinner, and my wife took care of the kids. We had nannies to take care of the kids. She was in charge of the house. As a matter of fact, I didn't talk about this. When you talk about my philanthropy, most of it was done by my wife. Because most people who reach me, when my relatives wanted anything, they talked to my wife. And she took care of it. So many times, because I just said, look, she knew my philosophy. I said, I want the kids here to go to school. I want them to. So when the time came and a kid said, I've gotten 3 papers in GCE, A-level, and I'm going to University of Boya, they didn't need to talk to me, they just talked to my wife, and she would be the one to handle it. So I've been blessed with a wife that has been very supportive. She's an American, but she's been to Cameroon more times than I have, believe it or not, since we came here, because she made 5 trips with containers to Cameroon. She's called Miafor by the Fonom Kwen, the late Fonom Kwen, because she was given that title. And she did a lot of things for the people in the palace, the women in the palace, and then other situations. So I've been blessed.
Now tell me about the most difficult part of living a rich man's life.
I'm not a rich man, but the most difficult part of living the life I am...
Living your life.
It is. I don't know. I don't see any difficult part about it. I have a problem, which many people who are close to me know. It's called OCD. My friend Dr. Santos will tell you it's called over-controlling disorder. So, not in a bad way, but in the fact that, as a matter of fact, this is funny you asked that. My colleague, Dr. Ndiforchu, was here last night with me and we were having a drink. He says, Mal, that's the difference, you know. Sometimes you see the problem and not only do you tell them how to take care of it, but you end up taking care of it, which is sometimes my problem.
We're going to go quickly over these inspirational phrases that I gathered from your different interviews that you've made all around the world. The first thing that I will say is you said this. You say people make a lot of excuses and it is just so easy to be successful. Today, I would like you to guide us through that same path of success using some of your inspirational phrases. The first one I got was, you said you excelled by trying to be different. What do you mean by that?
That's what I mean, work at it. The biggest challenge I have is, what are they doing wrong and what can I do to make a difference? And I stay at it. I mean, you're talking to somebody who can spend 30 hours on a project till I get it resolved. I mean, sometimes my wife finds it very frustrating. I'm saying, why are you knocking your head? I find most things very challenging. To some extent, you might call me a nerd.
The next thing you said is discipline and determination to be the best in whatever you do.
That is very, very important. You have to. Even in being nice to people, you have to be disciplined. It is not easy, and I'm not going to lie to you that I enjoy it when people who should not even talk to me, are rude to me. But you have to learn to accept the discipline and say, well, he does not know what he's doing. He doesn't know whom he's talking to. And it's a discipline. I have to repeat it to myself. I have learned to count to 10 before I reply to any situation of conflict. And I do it every day. And that's what I mean by the discipline. You have to just practice it. Otherwise, you will blow up.
You say, death is not to be celebrated, but life.
Yes. This is my fun is having you here talking to you now while you're alive. We have a culture in Africa where we spend more money celebrating death than celebrating life. I talk to my colleagues and my friends in the United States particularly. If you are here and you have a sister or a mother, send her 10,000 francs every month. And when she dies tomorrow, tell them to bury her safely. She would have lived a life. No, I don't believe in celebrating death. I, for one, my coffin is right there in my office. It's a cremation box. I have paid for it. My total funeral service is $2,500. So no matter where Dr. Fobi dies, the cremation company is going to pick that body and cremate it. That'll be it. I'm of use to nobody. I'm Ash, and unto Ash I return.
Today, at the age of 70, you are a retired bariatric surgeon. What next?
Spending more time with friends. I have this home. I'm going to be spending more time in Atlanta, which would put me closer to many other Cameroonians and classmates on the East Coast. I'm already giving invitations to friends. They can come and spend the weekend. I give you an invitation next time you're in the States. Just call, and I'll be glad to have you for the weekend or for a week, just to enjoy life and thank God for everything.
Thank you very much. Doctor, we have come to the end of the first part. I'm going to take you to the second part, which I call tic-tac. Dr. Fobi, your strength.
Persistence.
Your weakness.
Over controlling disorder.
Science and religion. What triumphs over a sick person?
Science.
3 guidelines for a successful career.
Never, never quit.
3 guidelines for a successful or fulfilling life.
Empathy, empathy, empathy.
As a Cameroonian, name one thing that America has given you and one thing it has taken away from you.
It's opened my path to success. I don't think it's taken anything from me.
If you were not a human, what animal would you have loved to be and why?
If I'm not a human, I would love to be an eagle. Just fly, 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 keep going.
What do you miss most back home in Cameroon?
The congeniality of getting together with my brothers and sisters.
What is the food on your mind?
Unfortunately, with my gastric bypass, I don't have any appetite. I don't have desire for food. I eat to live.
Back home friends?
You have Mr. Thaddeus Menang-Momolo, whom I think that is in charge of the human rights or something. They have Mr. George Mucha, who's with the High Court. And then Joachim Gallagher, who used to be with the House of Assembly. Then Mr. Ogok, Ntui Ogok, who used to work at the presidency. Those are like, the other classmate I had was a friend is dead. Mr. Richard Tima died 2 years ago. But those are people whom I consider as friends in Cameroon.
And how about here? Who are those you consider friends here?
I have quite a few friends. You know, as I said, I was here with my friend Dr. Defortu. I have another friend from Cameroon, Mr. Wankam. I have Mr. William Tita, Dr. Ibie in Chicago, Mr. Wamakala up in Delaware, to name a few.
Do you speak the dialect?
Me, I will. Thank you.
Now, what music is on your mind?
We all have pain, we all have sorrows.
But if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong.
I'll be your friend.
I like that.
I'll help you carry on. Yes, thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much,
Yeah.
Dr. Fobi.
Thank
It
you.
was wonderful talking to you. I am so privileged and so humbled to have shared this time with you, and I think I will go back to Cameroon a different person.
Well, thank you very much. You make an effort. I know you're going to be successful in your effort, and count on me if I can be of help in any way.
Thank you very much.
God bless you and your team.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's on that note that we come to the end of today's edition of the program. Hope to see you next time.